At this point, you should have a better understanding of what discernment means and how it will change your life in numerous positive ways if you commit yourself to discerning on a regular basis. But now that we know what discernment is, it would behoove us to learn specifically what discernment is not. Understanding what discernment is not is also a key component to understanding when you are actually discerning or when you are shooting in the dark. There are no negative components to discernment. Please remember that. Discernment is about sifting through information, good and bad information, in order to make the appropriate decisions for your life. Decisions that will protect you and yours, but decisions that will not require you to intentionally hurt others. First and foremost, while discernment requires you to make judgments, discernment is not about making judgments for the purpose of condemning, degrading, demeaning, diminishing, or devaluing another person in any way, shape, or form. In addition, discernment is not simply about being right or wrong, or about mindlessly passing judgment, or even about discriminating, although on some level, judging and discriminating are important aspects of the process of discerning. However, judgment and discrimination are not the focus of what discernment is all about. And understand this: discernment is not about lifting yourself up by putting others down, putting someone else down. On the flip side, this also means that discernment does not involve lifting someone else up to the detriment of one's self. In other words, discernment does not cause direct or collateral damage to someone else, including yourself. I cannot begin to tell you how important this piece of information is to your understanding of discernment. There are so many people who miss this point and proceed to get themselves involved in situations they never should have entered into in the first place. So when I say discerning will not lift you up while bringing someone else down and vice versa, I am really saying that you need to pay close attention to the situation that has presented itself to you. Paying close attention is what discernment is all about. As you discern through a situation, you must take an assessment of the facts that have been specifically presented to you so you can decide whether or not you should get involved. Similarly, if you are confronted with a situation where you must make an individual decision for you and or your family and loved ones, discerning will allow you to make the right decision and move forward in the correct manner. Either way, discernment should be your navigation tool that guides you to your destination. When you are using discernment as a navigation system, you will not need to second guess whether the navigation system is utilizing the best route to get you to your destination. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, honey. We are still on chapter 4, which, honey, this seems like it's the longest chapter in the book. But this is a good one. We are talking about discerning and discernment in lending money. What discernment is not, what discernment is. How you can use discernment as your navigation tool to make the absolute best decisions for your life. So as we get started this morning, Um, I wanted to just go ahead and jump right in. Let's see. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. Whatever time you happen to be catching this live stream podcast. I am your hostess with and doing the absolute mostest. Okay. Delores Michelle Peters, also known as Delores the Pastor's Daughter. But honey, I believe that God is changing my name, honey. Okay. To Delores, the discerner. I am your discernment and relationship coach, guiding you on your journey to making the best decisions in life and in love. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. Good morning. Honey, it is 6:21 a.m. What am I thinking of? What am I thinking of? Getting up, not only getting up, child, this early, but getting out here and talking to y'all this morning. I don't even know if I really slept last night, to be honest with y'all. I don't even know if I really slept. But I got up this morning and I just figured, you know what? Let me just go ahead and get this day started. We were talking about discernment and lending money yesterday. And where we left off was discerning when to lend money. We went through the assessment questions here. We went through a scenario, right? And I spent way too much time, way too much time on this scenario. I don't know. I think I must have been really feeling it. Okay. I was really feeling this scenario. So I got all into it. Child, I was adding my own little commentary and everything. Okay. Was putting some extra things in the story. Okay, like you could totally count on me, honey, to add a whole lot more and drag the whole story out. Okay. But I wanted us to go ahead and get started and complete this chapter because discernment in lending money, it's a major thing that I feel that a lot of us are faced with in real time, all the time. Okay. Um, and especially in this day and age where there is a lot of social media influencers and influences, um, we tend to be a bit reckless with our money and where we put our money, right? The different things that we support, the different people that we support, the organizations. And I believe that a lot of times we don't really know exactly what we are supporting, right? We don't really know what our money is funding, who is funding, or what programs is funding. And I truly believe that, excuse me, hold on, you guys. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Excuse me. I truly believe that discernment in money, in our finances, and where we put our money is what I believe that we are going to discover. Some of us already know this, but I believe that a lot of us are going to discover that we have actually been funding organizations and movements that we are against, right? Because we have not been discerning of where we put our money, I believe that we have allowed a lot of things to happen in our world, in our communities, even in our households, okay, that do not serve us. In fact, they hurt us and they hurt the people that we love. So it's important that we grasp this concept of discernment in finances and really take on that belief system that, hey, I have to be a better steward of my money. I have to be more aware of what I am doing with my money, where I'm putting my money, and who I'm giving my money to. My motivations behind giving money and what the person is doing with it. I remember, in church, we would always say, well, you just give it and you don't worry about what the other person does with it. You just give. But I believe that that is an old way of thinking, and that we must be more aware of where our money goes once it leaves our hands. We must be. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this chapter. We're still on chapter 4, and we're going to complete chapter 4 today, but this is where we left off, right here where it talks about guidelines for lending money. Okay? Guidelines for lending money. Okay? An extra step in making appropriate assessments. Hold on, you guys. Let me go ahead and put up this copyright disclaimer. As I was telling you before, I'm reading directly from a book written by R.L. Maco, okay, who is an actual attorney, you guys. Um, she practices in the business arena. I can't remember exactly what aspects of business she does, but she's a practicing attorney in the business arena, and she wrote these 2 books, A Yearn to Discern um, and A Year to Discern. Okay, we're going to get into that book as well, but I do want you to know that I am reading someone else's works here, right? But if there's any way that you can support this author, myself, the channel, people who are bringing you really good information, and that would be awesome. But also, it's important that we share this information. And I believe, even though I have not asked for permission, I admit that, right? I believe in my spirit that R.L. Maco would be proud and pleased to know that we are really digging into this topic and that this information does not get lost in a book, but that we talk about it and that we put into action in real life, in real time. But this is someone else's work that we are using for the purpose of education. Okay, let's keep going. An extra step in making appropriate assessments with lending money is establishing rules for lending money. Okay, so you can establish some rules for yourself here. Establishing rules with money lending aids tremendously in the discernment process because it provides a firm basis or condition upon which you are able to lend money. Okay? Personally, I have a firm rule for lending money to anyone. Here is my rule. If I have the money to give without needing it back or without having to ask for the money back, then I will lend the money. Okay? Let's read that again. This is R.L. Maco's rule here. Okay? If I have the money I have the money to give without needing it back or without having to ask for it back, then I will lend the money. Oh, sorry about that, y'all. It's my 6:30 alarm. However, If I am not able to give out money without needing it back, I will not lend it out. This rule takes the financial burden aspect off me. Okay? When you establish rules for yourself, right? Then you are inclined to follow those rules, right? I mean, how many times, like, I remember growing up, we would hear, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? If you don't establish these rules and boundaries for yourself, then you have no rules or boundaries. Anything goes, right? Let's keep reading. I also lend to those who I believe would pay me back without me having to ask for it. This, as you know, requires me to discern certain pertinent information about this person's character, especially since this is personal. Therefore, I need to set these rules and then make sure the person I'm potentially lending to fits the criteria set forth in the rules. Okay? She's established rules. She set certain criteria. And so that way, when she is making a decision, she has these guidelines that she has already established for herself. I love this, right? This analysis is no different than what a financial institution does when lending money. Okay? Now, this will make you feel better, right? This will make you feel better about your stance, about your rules and your boundaries. Knowing that financial institutions have the same rules and boundaries, okay? If you are lending money professionally, seek the advice of an attorney. Wow. Now, see, this brings in, right? This is the introduction to having professional people also as your where you incorporate them into your discernment process. Okay, so this here is the introduction to that, because now we are seeing how RL Maco has introduced adding a professional person to your decision-making process. Okay? So she's established that if this is a personal thing, she's going by this certain set of rules. This is the same set of rules that the bank is going to go by, that the credit union is going to go by, that the car dealership is going to go by, that anyone who is lending money is going to go by. Okay? This is the same criteria. But when we get into professional, lending money on a professional level, she's saying, hey, let's go ahead and incorporate a professional person, right, that you can seek advice from that can help you in the decision-making process, okay? Let's now look at a third example of a situation where discerning identifies a situation that may sound appealing to you, but will end up as a win-win for one person, but a lose-lose scenario for another. Oh, wow. Okay, y'all know I told you I live for these examples, honey. Okay? Hold on 1 second. I don't know why this keeps coming up. The example here, what is this called? What is it called? Excuse me. Example 3 is you win, I lose. Ooh, that's the name of it, okay? No one is immune from unappealing situations that come their way, even me, okay? So nobody's exempt here, okay? Nobody's exempt. Everybody is going to have situations where they have to make a discerning decision, okay? When I was about 23 years old, I was studying law abroad in London, England, and met a musician one day as I was crossing the street. I was out with some friends at the time. My eyes met the musician as we were both crossing the street in the opposite direction. Once I almost finished crossing the street, I looked back to see where he was and noticed that he stopped in the middle of the street and was staring at me. Ooh, okay. This is sounding steamy. I'm just kidding. I smiled at him, turned my head, and continued walking with my friends, hoping that he would come up to me. Ooh, child. Now we gonna make a love connection. I had already decided that I could not speak to him first because that's how I was raised. That's just how I was raised, honey, okay? The men do the chasing, okay? Not the ladies. I felt that he should be the one to come up to me first. Okay, as you should, okay? Luckily, he crossed the street again, came up to me and said hi. Still walking slowly, I said, hello. Ooh, child. Did y'all like how I put my long look? Hello. Okay, he said hi. I said hello. Child. Isn't that a song or something? Isn't that a song? Okay. And then he quickly asked if I liked jazz music. Ooh. I told him that I loved jazz, and he said, great. By this time, we were on the sidewalk and we stopped to talk. He told me he was playing at a club that night, and if I were interested, please come with my friends as his guest. Okay, sounding good so far. I was instructed to tell the person at the door that the saxophone player sent me. Ooh, he plays a saxophone too, child. Ooh, this is getting juicy. Okay. Why does this keep coming up on my screen? Move. Okay. Hold on, y'all. Okay. I don't know. Okay. It was in the way. Here we go. Okay. He never told me his name. Wait, hold on. Wait. Hold on. This took a turn real quick. He never told me his name, just the saxophone player. Child. Okay. Taking a turn already. He smiled and then hurried along his way. I excitedly turned to my friends and asked them to join me that night, and they said yes. Okay. She was like, hey, girls, what we doing? We going. And to see the saxophone player, okay? And the girls said, yeah, girl. Okay. After getting myself ready for the rest of the day, my friends and I anxiously headed out to attend the show at the famous jazz club in Soho, London, known as the Ronnie Scott's. Okay? Excuse me, known as Ronnie Scott's, not the Ronnie Scott's. Okay. At the time, I didn't know that so many of the jazz giants played at this cozy club. Anyway, we met the band afterwards. After the show, the musician and I grabbed a bite to eat with my friends and began dating shortly thereafter. Oh my gosh, that was fast. Okay. What's his name though, child? Okay. We both were from the US, so it wouldn't be such a big deal seeing each other after we both left the UK. We spent time experiencing London for a couple of months, and then perhaps in our 9th or 10th wonderful date, he informed me that he was leaving London and would be traveling across the US and other countries for approximately 6 months. He said he loved to continue seeing me and would pay for all of my travel whenever we'd see each other. And just when I didn't think this story could get any better, he said to me in such a calm, sweet voice, but I just want you to know that I am not in a position to be faithful to anyone. Oh, God. Oh, God. Y'all, were we getting our hopes up? I wasn't, child, because I was already seeing red flags, but some of us was getting our hopes up. But this guy can't be faithful. He can't be faithful. Okay. He told her up front, so she knows. I don't know if this was up front, but was this up front? Do y'all think this was up front? Oh, probably soon enough, I guess. I don't know, child. My life is spent traveling all over, so I don't believe in long distance relationship. But whenever I'm close by or close enough for me to send for you, I will. And that's the best I can do right now. Whoa. Let's go back. Okay, let's read what he said again, child. He said in a calm, sweet voice. Now, you notice she put that, right? A calm, sweet voice, right? Because sometimes that'll get some of us girls, okay? Okay, if you talk to me nice, okay? Talk to me sweet. It don't matter what you say. Okay? Just talk to me nice. Okay? This is what he said. But I just want you to know that I am not in a position to be faithful to anyone. My life is spent traveling all over, so I do not believe in long distance relationships. But whenever I'm close by or close enough for me to send for you, I will. And that's the best I can do right now. Oh, child. Hearing this, I think my heart skipped a few beats. Child, my heart skipped a few beats, and I'm just reading this, okay? To be honest, I was truly caught off guard. If you asked me 5 seconds before this happened, I would have told you he was the one. Child. She said, I didn't see this coming at all. So now, in light of all the fun I was having abroad, how was I supposed to process this information? I must have had a look of total shock when he spoke these words to me. I'm not sure what my first initial response was, but what I can tell you definitely is that with those 4 sentences, he provided me with all the information I needed to make the proper decision at that time. There were only 3 ways I could have responded to the information and proposal he presented to me. Oh, child. Okay, now we're going to get into the 3 responses. Okay, listen. First of all, how would y'all have responded? Okay, how would y'all have responded? Because he's like, look, child, I travel a lot. Look, I'm putting my own spin on it right now, okay? He said, girl, I travel a lot, okay? Listen, I can't be faithful, all right? But when I'm close by, you know what I'm saying? When I want to see you, I send for you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay, first of all, the nerve. The nerve. He said, I'll send for you. Whenever I can send for you, I will. Child. Okay. Look, I'm already like, get somebody else to do it, okay? That's my stance already. But where are y'all at, okay, in this, okay? So here is one of the 3, the first possible response that she could have given, right? Number 1, I could accept his proposal and become one of the women he sees when it suits him. Now, how many of us, okay? You don't listen. You don't have to blast yourself, or you can, honey. Stand on it. Okay, if that's how you feel, go ahead and stand on it, sis. Okay. But how many of us would accept the proposal? And I'm not saying, there's no judgment on this on my end, honey. I'm just asking you. Would you accept number 1 as your response? Would you accept his proposal and become one of the women he sees when it suits him? Okay. Number 2, I could reject what he said and try to convince him to date only me. Ooh, child. Now, how many of us? Now, go ahead and tell on yourself, sis. Go ahead and tell on yourself. Okay? How many of us will reject what he said and try to convince him, okay, to date only you? How many of us would do it? Go ahead and tell on yourself. Don't be shamed, honey. Okay? Do not be shamed. You definitely not gonna get any judgment, from me. Because we need to know where we are in order to know where we're going. We got to know where we came from to see how far we've come. Okay? so go ahead and tell yourself, if this was your past, if this in the past you would have made this choice, like, be honest about that. Okay? If you would make this choice today, be honest about that. Okay? Now, number 3. This is a third option here. I could respectfully decline the offer and move on with my life. How many of us would do that? How many of us have done that and be like, I should have kept, I was having so much fun in the UK. I should have kept that thing going. How many of us would choose that option? Because it's an option, right? All 3 of these are options. But what's best for you? That's the question, okay? So let's keep going. So let me give you some additional information about me that plays a significant role in how I process the information given to me. Okay? Because see, this is a factor here, right? This is a key thing to know about yourself. Know who you are, right? Know thyself. Okay? To thine own self be true. Okay, let's not lie about ourselves. Let's be honest about who we are, where we stand, and the different aspects of us, right, that determine how we make decisions. That's why I say you're not gonna get any judgment from me, right? Because it's our own experiences and who we are and our path in life that determine how we make decisions. Okay? Determines how we discern. Number 1, she says, my personality and character. That's the first thing. Number 2 is my life experiences, and number 3, my emotional IQ. Okay, so these are the different bits of information she's going to give us that lets us know why she made the decision she made and what factors played into some of the other factors that played into it. Okay. My personality is more on the quiet, introverted side. I keep my feelings to myself. For the most part, in matters of the heart, I keep my feelings of love to myself unless I feel safe to do otherwise. 9 times out of 10, I would determine it unwise to divulge my feelings to anyone. In other words, I am good at not showing my emotions. My sister would always say to me, never let them see you sweat. Okay? Now, I know some of us that live by that, honey. That ends up being the golden rule of our lives, honey. Like, never let them see you sweat, sis. Okay? She was referring to not allowing anyone see that they hurt or angered me, particularly when I did nothing to hurt or anger the person. This positioning is perhaps the best way to describe me. In my mind, if I made a determination that you hurt me unnecessarily, all emotions are shut off and I proceed on what I believe to be the only logical course of action. That's how I am too, y'all. That's how I am too. Like, child, I'm like, Like and I wrote about this too in my book, in my memoir, about how I can just cut emotions off. Like I can cut them off like a switch, honey. Like a whole light switch. And you should be like, wait, hold on. Like, wait, hold on. I thought I had you. No, boo. Cut off, okay? Understand that such a disposition leads to decision making based upon more factual information and takes you out of the arena of being hurt, okay? Now, I have to admit to you that, even though I am similar to this, in how I cut emotions and how I don't really show emotions in a lot of cases, right? that was a trauma response. Okay. So I'm not saying that, even though I have used it, in a way that helps me to make better decisions, right? Like I have acknowledged that and worked on that issue, it was, and it is, it was developed out of trauma. Okay. And so she says here, understand that such a disposition leads to decision making based upon more factual information and takes you out of the arena of being hurt. Okay. Now, understand that if I am discerning in this situation, there is really only one option to choose under these circumstances. Discerning dictates that I choose option 3. Here is why option number 3 was the only rational decision for me at the time. Okay? The Maya Angelou principle. The Maya Angelou principle. One of my favorite quotes in the world and one of the mantras I live by is the quote by the beloved Maya Angelou, who once said, "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." Ciao, 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 ciao. Okay? Ciao. Let me, as a matter of fact, let me copy this and I'm about to put this in the chat. Okay? I'm putting this in the chat. Okay? It's also going to give you the book information. And see, this is why I really love, look at this. I'm going to put it on the screen too. This is why I really love this Kindle version, right? Because I can make a copy of this part of the book, and it also gives me the citation information. Look at that. Gives me the citation information right there on the end, along with the book number and the publisher and all of that good information. Okay. So this is why I really, really love the Kindle version of this book. Okay. So that's right there in the chat for you. Okay. The Maya Angelou principle says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Now, how many of us, okay, I'm telling you, go ahead and tell yourself, sis, okay? Go ahead and tell yourself, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. How many of us would have tried to convince that man to only date us, right? Just totally throwing out the window what he just said. He just said he can't be faithful. He doesn't want to be faithful. He travels and he'll send for you when he wants you. But how many of us would throw all of that information that we just got out of the window and try to convince that man to date only us? Totally throwing out this entire principle here of when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And then when we discover that this man is continuing to see other women, is dating women in every city that he visits or that he tours, we are shocked, we are hurt, we are appalled, and some of us even act a fool. But we knew this. We knew this information going in. Okay? And then she says here, I could write a dissertation on this quote alone because there is so much information packed into that one phrase. And it is, okay? If you truly understood what Miss Angelou was saying, you'd know that her words were really all about discernment. All about discernment. Put in different words, she really said, this is what she said, right? In other words, when a person provides you with direct information about who they are, believe what they told you the first time they told you. Believe what they told you the first time they told you. Okay? So often people tell us things about themselves, information which tells us emphatically to either leave them alone or proceed with extreme caution for a limited purpose, while keeping in mind that information they provided to you. Excuse me, I don't feel like I read that right. So often, people tell us things about themselves, information which tells us emphatically to either leave them alone or proceed with extreme caution for a limited purpose, while keeping in mind that information they provided to you, and we just don't want to believe them, or we allow other distractors to cloud our judgment towards that person. Let's go back. How many times, you guys, has someone told us information about themselves which tells us emphatically, right? What does emphatically mean? Let's look it up. Emphatically, in a forceful way. In a forceful way. Okay? Look, I'm telling you, this is who I am, how I am. Why are you throwing this information out the window? Why? While keeping in mind that information they provided to you, and we just don't want to believe them, or we allow other distractors to cloud our judgment toward that person. We do this despite being given specific information about the person that came right from the person's mouth. My God, today. That'll preach. That'll preach, y'all. But let me ask you this. Yeah, I'm being a little messy. Does your preacher preach about this? Does your preacher teach you how to discern? Once we make the decision to ignore the information that was handed to us on a silver platter, we set ourselves up for failure, and in some instances, we set ourselves up for danger. I'm telling y'all, this book is it. This book is it, okay? This book is it. Take this example that I just gave you about my love interest. First, you must discern that not only are options 1 and 2 in the musician's best interest, but they are options that may very well end up hurting me in more ways than one. What are some ways that it could possibly hurt you to continue a relationship with someone who has told you that they cannot and will not be faithful? But you know that that is what you desire. But also tell me this, especially in today's time, honey, when STDs are running rampant, okay? When people are passing out STDs like they're handing you a stick of gum, honey, okay? How can it possibly hurt you that this person is going from city to city and entertaining any woman, every woman that piques his interest? And just like he stopped in the middle of the street, okay? He stopped in the middle of the street, crossed the street, came back, okay, so that he could her. But not even to the point where he actually even gave her his name. Okay, because isn't that like one of the first pieces of information you get? Child, he was like, no, tell him the saxophone player sent you. Does that not give you information about that person that is a pattern? That he doesn't even have to use he doesn't even have to tell you his name, honey. Just come hear me play. Come hear the saxophone. And I got you. Bring your girls. You know? Think about that. But I know, like we have all been kind of like, maybe like most of us, I mean, maybe all of us haven't, but we've had these, encounters that intrigue us, these people that, you may find an attraction to just like right off of one glance. And you think, oh my gosh, this is a love connection. This is love at first sight. This is my person, right? Until we are given information that does not align with what we were hoping for. And because that wasn't the information we wanted to receive, we decided to discard that information, even though it was that information that we should have made a logical and sound decision based on. She says here, if I allowed myself to be distracted, I would say to myself, this man was bold and honest enough to tell me that he would not be in a monogamous relationship with me. Therefore, he is not a bad guy. I should continue this relationship. I can convince him to date only me. I can change him. So many women truly believe they can change a man, even though such a change is truly beyond their control. Y'all, this happens every day, all day. Every day that ends in Y, this happens. And how many times is this kind of like one of those things that are like an origin story for a crime show? The origin story for a court show. The origin story for paternity court, divorce court, a trial. The origin story for people who are locked up right now because they wanted to convince themselves, convince the other person that even in the face of the facts and information that you needed to make a wise decision, you chose not to. Let's keep reading. In addition, I can even admire the fact that he was upfront with the information. But here's the true big ticket item of information that I need to be even more impressed with. He was essentially telling me that he wanted a relationship that would put his needs first, not mine and not ours. He was telling me that his goal was to benefit himself, not me and not us. In fact, there is no us here. There is no us. Some of us will proceed just because that person told us the truth about themselves. How How do you reconcile that in your mind? How do you reconcile that in your mind? When you can say to yourself, well, he told me the truth. So even though that truth does not align with what I want, what I desire, what is best for me, it creates a situation where I lose in the end. How do you reconcile proceeding forward when the facts are telling you that you should not? He clearly wanted a relationship on his terms, even though his terms would be hurtful to me. In fact, his words communicated to me that there is no us, only me. The fact that he said it nicely and was upfront about his motives were irrelevant pieces of information that I didn't need to focus on. Some of us will focus just on that part and leave all the rest, like the actual facts don't mean anything to us. Child, okay. The most important information he gave was the fact that he was putting himself first. And guess what? I believe exactly what he told me without any further information. So don't go thinking, well, I'm going to put it on him. Well, I'm just going to give him all my love and I'm just going to show him that I'm the only woman that he needs. You're not the only woman that he wants. Okay? I also believe he was hoping I was distracted by the handsome package in which he presented the information. And he was further hoping that I was distracted by the wonderful time I had with him over the past 2 months, so as to ignore what he was truly saying. Now, I was about to say this before, but I decided not to, but this is the perfect time to say it. Sometimes people telling you a bit of truth about themselves is their game. It's game. It's game. And just like she was saying here, he was hoping that she would actually be distracted by that information, right? But see, here's the thing. How many times have you seen this presented to you where a person says, well, I told her in the beginning that I wasn't faithful, that I wasn't going to be faithful, right? How many times have you seen that played out? But she decided to be with me anyway. Because that is their game. That is what they use later, right? To not have responsibility, not have accountability in their actions and behaviors. But if we are being honest with ourselves, right? And we are becoming discerning individuals, then we know we should take that accountability and that responsibility. Let's not worry about what responsibility or accountability he doesn't take in the end. Ultimately, it is up to you to make the best decision and to work through the process of discerning what decisions to make, because that is your accountability and that is your responsibility. But you do also have to realize that sometimes a person telling you a bit of truth about themselves is part of them running game on you, because they are hoping that you are distracted and that you still proceed, even thinking, well, I can compete with other women. I will do everything I can. I'm going to put it on them, right? I'm going to spoil him. I'm going to do all the things he wants me to do. I'm going to go above and beyond because I'm going to win him. I'm going to win his faithfulness. I'm going to win his monogamy. I'm going to win all of his attention and his time. Right? How many times have we done that? Or how many times have we seen, a friend of ours do the exact same thing? Because that person gave that information to also cop out and to also run game on her. Okay? We just have to be aware that there are people who are like that. Okay? And I'm continuing to read here. And if I were acting upon my feelings, selfishness, temporary gratification, and a whole host of other distractions, other than the direct information that was presented to me, I would have been distracted to the point of placing myself in an unwanted position that may have led to a number of issues further down the road. Now, I'm not saying, through this scenario, that there are not some of us who will choose to proceed because that's what we want, right? Because we want, to have a relationship like that where, we just see a person when, we want to. We don't really care if they're monogamous, they can do their thing. We're doing our thing, or I'm doing my thing or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I know that there are situations like that. But in this scenario, we are specifically speaking to the scenario or the situation where this is not what you desire, right? That you actually desire to have a relationship with someone who is monogamous, who is faithful, who is all about you, and all that stuff, right? And this person is letting you know that they will not be, okay? So I do understand that there are situations where, you will proceed or, different times in your life, depending on what you want, that you may proceed because you don't want a committed relationship. You want it to be like this. You're having fun. And, once you've gone through your discernment process, right, you've decided that that's what you want. And so that suits you. Okay. So like I said, no judgment here, but, it's good for us to work through these scenarios because there are times where we may think that that is what we want. Sometimes as women, we think, okay, well, I can, it's fine that you won't be faithful. In the end, we realize, right, because we have not done any real self-reflection, we realize that we were wanting and really hoping for a relationship. And maybe in the back of our mind, we were, accepting of it because we were hoping that he'd change his mind. Okay. We, like I said, to thine own self be true. Okay. Now, in a nutshell, I'm continuing to read here. In a nutshell, I could have potentially exposed myself to physical and emotional issues by continuing this relationship. This is why, if you are confronted with a proposition such as this, you must focus on the information you have and not lead with distractors. Distractors are just that. Things that distract you from the facts and will cause you to make choices that are not in your best interests. Another important point, and actually the main point, to always keep in mind about discernment is this: your decisions will not leave you in a lurch. The whole point of discerning is to make decisions that will positively impact your life. People with big, soft hearts tend to forego this point to their detriment. Individuals with big hearts tend to make decisions to help others that only serve to hurt them in the end. Okay, where are my big heart people at? Okay, when you hear this video, okay, If I'm knocking on your door, as my father said, if I'm reading your mail, you know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead and you know what I'm saying? Put a thumbs up in the chat. Let's be honest about this. Where are my big heart people? Big heart people who tend to make decisions to help others that only serve to hurt them in the end. Discernment doesn't allow this to happen. Discernment works to protect your heart, y'all. That big soft heart you have, it doesn't mean that you have to have a hard heart, right? It doesn't change who you are. You can still be a big old softy, right? But as long as you have discernment, you are protecting that big soft heart of yours. Okay? So in this situation, as I used my ability to discern, it became clear to me that I needed to walk away from this relationship, and that's exactly what I did. And you know what else? If this relationship was truly meant to be, then I believe we would have found ourselves back to each other. There is no need for me to force anything. Wow. After you discern, you can look at future outcomes with a person more objectively and realistically. Okay? And what does objectively mean? In a way that is not influenced by personal feelings or opinions. Right? So it's not influenced by his voice, him playing that saxophone, child, because I know that was sexy. I know it was sexy. Okay? Blow that horn, child. You know what I'm saying? I know it was sexy. But she didn't make her decision based off that. She had to be objective, and she had to be realistic in this situation. What does realistically mean? Let's look it up. Realistically, in a way that demonstrates a sensible and practical idea of what can be achieved or expected. Okay? Realistically means that you are making the decision in a way that demonstrates a sensible and practical idea of what can be achieved or expected. And since he already told you what you can expect, there is no need to delude yourself into believing anything else. Okay? All right. This is how I was able to come to the conclusion that the future can take care of itself. True love is not something that needs to be forced upon anyone. On the other hand, if I acted on my emotions and falsely believed that I must act on what he proposed or else I would lose him, I would have missed the fact that I never had him to begin with. And y'all, the mic could totally drop right now. Okay? You never had him to begin with, but you made a decision because you were afraid of losing him. You were afraid of losing what you never My God, today. This will preach, y'all. This will preach. This fact is a very sobering fact, one that most people couldn't admit to themselves. Wow. It's a hard truth, huh? You have to really humble yourself in order to swallow that bitter pill. But I did it almost instantly. Sure, it hurt, y'all. Make no mistake about it. Sometimes your feelings, okay, are going to be hurt. Your emotions are going to be hurt. But here's what she says. But it is better to hurt a little now than to hurt a whole lot more on the back end. I have no doubt that if I accepted what was presented to me, I would have acted out of fear. Fear of losing these past 2 months. Y'all, we have had so much fun in these past 2 months. I don't want it to be over. Right? Girl, he is a jazz player. He plays a saxophone, girl. I can't let that man go. He is fine. Child, he had me all over the UK. Honey, just living my best life. We was making love and all this. Okay, because you could just imagine like all the stories she had to tell about this 2 month, you know, love affair. Because that's really what it was. It wasn't a relationship. She never had him. Okay? But the truth is, the past 2 months will never be taken away. They'll never be taken away. She still has those memories. She still enjoyed her time. There is no need for that whole 2 months to just be like, it's not gone. It's like it happened. So let's just end it on that note. Okay? Like let's just keep it right there. Okay? What can be taken away from me, however, is my dignity, my self-worth, my ability to trust, and perhaps a lot more. Learning to discern in the face of this type of situation is the way to go. Learning to discern in the face of this type of information, in this type of information is the way to go. These are just a few examples of how using your ability to discern will keep you and your loved ones from suffering unnecessarily. In all three situations, deciding not to get involved or deciding to bow out gracefully was the right course of action because the information provided was just enough to know that getting involved would hurt you and yours more than it would help the other person in need. Okay? And we're talking about both the last two scenarios that we read as well, right? Deciding when to lend money and also the cable bill that is not my emergency scenario. Remember that? Okay. And knowing what we now know about discernment, we are clear that discernment does not set you up for hurt or suffering. Okay? Discernment does not set you up for hurt or suffering. More often than not, people ignore the fact that their disposition does not allow for them to get involved in certain situations. Okay? Like you're not even built for that. You want a monogamous relationship. Why are you getting involved with someone who does not? Instead of realizing this fact, people are more focused on assessing other people's situation first to see how bad the person's situation is. Subconsciously, they do this with the goal of determining whether someone else's situation is worse than their own situation. For some, this assessment provides a type of enjoyment and then a basis to help the other person. Let's get into it, okay? I mean, let's really talk about it. Because how many times do we get some sense of satisfaction when a person is worse off than us? Well, child, let me go and help them out because, look how down and out they are. And we get some type of enjoyment off of that. Clearly, this type of help is misplaced and ill-conceived. Absolutely. Help should never be given to another on the premises that one is somehow superior to another. Hmm. I believe we are seeing this a lot on social media when we see these people who are given to the homeless and stuff like that, and they're doing these weird like videos of it. It's giving weirdness, and it's giving I'm superior to you and I'm coming out here and kind of exploiting your situation to build my following, to get attention, to make myself seem like I'm superior, that I've done all these great things. You got to be careful about that, okay, you guys? Watch for that type of person. Feeling better about oneself by assessing the misfortunes of another is a form of self-loathing. Let's look up that word. Self-loathing. Okay. Self-loathing. What? Child, this is not giving what it's supposed to give in this whole definition. Loathing, a feeling of intense dislike or disgust, hatred. Ooh. Wow. Right? Feeling better about oneself by assessing the misfortunes of another is a form of self-loathing, a form of self-hatred, a form of self-dislike and self-disgust. Oh, that's deep, y'all. Anytime someone feels a sense of gratification based upon the unfortunate circumstances of another, it's because their life is not fulfilling either. It's not fulfilling. They have not found their purpose. They may even be hurting in some way. As imperfect humans who each have their own problems and issues to deal with, many of us are inclined to make such an assessment of others because we have not examined our own lives enough, or perhaps not at all. It may be true that someone's situation is worse than yours. However, just because someone else's current situation is worse than yours doesn't mean your situation is a good one. Okay? That'll preach too. This whole book will preach, child, okay? It's sermons all up and through this book, y'all. Okay? It's sermons all up and through this book. It also doesn't mean your situation will eventually improve, nor does it mean your situation cannot become worse than the other person's at some point. Have we or have we not seen this happen? And to be blunt about it, if you are trying to be your best self and be accountable for the choices we make in life, we wouldn't need to assess anyone else's shortcomings and compare them to our own anyway. You just don't have time to sit there and compare. It's not a competition. This is not a comparison. Okay? You just need to be your best self and be accountable for the choices that you make in your life. You don't need to assess anyone else's shortcomings and compare them to your own. Instead, if we took the time to focus on improving our own situation rather than making ourselves feel better through someone else's misfortunes, we'd realize that we simply cannot afford to help that person, even though we have the mindset to do so. So if we really being honest about our own situation and we realize we are not superior and that, hey, you know what? I can't help. I need help. Okay? If you really want to help someone in need, help yourself first so that you can be in a position to help someone else. Doesn't this sound like the airplane scenario, you guys? You know how they say you got to put your mask on first? You got to put your mask on first and then help the person next to you put their mask on. Right? That's what this sounds like to me. Another way to bring this point home is to think about what happens on the see what happens on the airplane. Okay. All right. I told you I read this book like a long time ago. I forgot she even brought this scenario up. It just seemed like it fit right here. Okay. I know y'all be thinking I done pre-read this stuff, but no, I mean, it's just on point. Okay. And I'm on point. So there. Okay. Have you ever thought about the fact that every time you board an airplane, at the beginning of every flight, the flight attendants go over the safety features of the aircraft and demonstrate what to do in case of an emergency? When the attendant discusses the possibility of passengers needing oxygen due to a change in cabin pressure, they tell you that oxygen masks will be released. They also inform you that once the mask is placed over the face properly, oxygen will freely flow from the mask. But the salient piece of information that the attendant tells you is this. Okay, here's the key. If someone else needs assistance with their oxygen mask, you must first place the oxygen mask over yourself and then proceed to help another person with their oxygen mask. Okay? You must place the oxygen mask over yourself first. The attendant does not make any allowances or exceptions for certain people who may need assistance with oxygen. There are no exceptions. The rule is straightforward. Place the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help anyone else with their oxygen mask. Let's first recognize that this is a rule put in place uniformly by all airlines. And look, like in church, right? My mom was a preacher too, right? And she would say, whenever there was a scripture that says all or something like that, right? And she would ask the congregation, she was like, what does all mean? And everybody would be like, all. All means all, okay? All means all, okay? There are no exceptions. There are absolutely no exceptions. All means all, okay? All is used to refer to the whole quantity or extent of a particular group or thing. It's the whole thing. Everybody, lottie-dottie, everybody, all airlines, okay? It's put in place uniformly by all airlines for the safety and protection of everyone aboard the craft. It doesn't matter what airline you take. It could be Delta or Spirit, okay? It could be a foreign airline, okay? All airlines. And what does all mean? All. There are no exceptions to this rule. Now, The reason for this rule is simple. You cannot help someone else who is suffering when you are suffering. Put another way, you cannot help someone out of a negative situation when you are operating from a negative position. This is a fact. As awful as this may sound, even lifeguards are trained to know when to let someone drown. My God, today, with that, ooh, child, where my fan at, honey? Okay. Listen. That'll preach. As awful as this may sound, even lifeguards are trained to know when to let someone drown. My God, today. I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. If the lifeguard is presented with a situation where he cannot save a stranger without drowning both himself and the stranger, what is he expected to do? But how many times have we ran into this very situation in our own lives? In our own lives. And we have chosen to drown. And no, we didn't choose to drown, but you did choose to drown. And really, at the end of the day, if we are taking accountability and responsibility for our actions, then we would have to admit to ourselves that we chose to drown. We chose not to give our own selves oxygen. We chose, right? We decided that our own air was not a necessity. We chose to drown. And people do this. We do this all the time in different areas of our lives. Don't take these examples and these principles and think that it only applies to what we are given an example of. Take this and apply it to your life in every situation that you face. How many times? How many times? And will you continue to allow yourself to drown? Will you continue to choose, to decide to drown? See, when you say it that way, right? When you say it that way, it makes you think a little bit different about your choices. Because no one would say, well, yeah, I'm going to choose to drown. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I choose to drown here. You know, no one says that. But if you look at it that way, then that's what it becomes in your mind. That is what the true scenario is, right? I cannot choose to drown trying to save someone else. I don't even really like this scenario, to be honest with y'all, because I can't even swim. So this is like, let's move on, okay? I don't want to start getting a little anxious inside, okay? I can't swim, y'all. Okay? But it says here, if the lifeguard is presented with a situation where he cannot save a stranger without drowning both himself and the stranger, what is he expected to do? The answer is obvious. He would be expected to save himself, unless perhaps a child was involved. Now, with respect to the oxygen mask on an aircraft, the pertinent information about the oxygen mask is spoken in the beginning of each and every flight. What does all mean? All, right? every flight, all the time, all the airplanes, all the aircrafts, right? All the airlines. Yet and still, I'm sure there are some individuals who, if faced with a situation where the oxygen mask is released, would reach for the oxygen mask for their loved ones first, especially their young children, before placing the mask over their face first. Why? Why do we do this? Because as perfectly flawed human beings, that's our first response. And it is also the emotional response. Although it is our first response, does not mean that is the best choice for us, that's the best response. It is natural for any parent to attempt to place an oxygen mask over their child first before thinking of themselves. However, discernment makes us aware that leading with our emotions begets poor decision making, especially when the correct information is staring you in the face. It may seem to you that helping the child with their mask first is the right thing to do. However, that's not the case. And the flight attendant already told you so outright. It's not the case. And even though that is our first instinct, well, some of us, child, okay, because some of us, okay, listen. Some of us wouldn't even look over to see if anybody else need help, child. Okay, listen, let's be honest. Okay? But the flight attendant already told you, and they tell you this and they have to repeat it. How many times have you heard this on an airplane? Every single time you've been on there, right? Every single time. Any airline, all airlines, anywhere you go, you can go across the seas or you can go across the state line. But they all tell you the same thing. And some of us take flights like all the time. And in a situation, right, that in an emergency situation, we may still even be inclined to do the emotional thing, which is why you have to study, you have to practice, you have to constantly work this muscle of discernment, because you have to realize that this is not the only scenario where your first instinct is to be emotional or to act in an emotional way that could be to your detriment. Okay? That can have a negative outcome for you. Therefore, you attempting to place the mask on your loved one first is you not using your ability to discern. Instead, it is you allowing your emotions to dictate your actions. You must comprehend that using your ability to discern will ensure that you avoid this pitfall. By going against the flight attendant's specific instructions, you are placing yourself and anyone you are helping with an oxygen mask in more danger than initially exists. You know why? Because you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you're doing. How are you helping someone else? You don't even know what you're doing. And now both of you are dead. Help yourself first. Put your own mask on first. I'm quite sure this would not be your intended outcome as you are reaching for the oxygen mask. So the lesson is ignoring information that is available to you is not utilizing your ability to discern. Continuing to act in this manner will cause you to make unnecessary mistakes, some of which may be fatal. May be fatal. I believe you now have enough examples and strategies in this chapter to absorb and reflect upon. Now, let's continue discussing what discernment is not. Discernment is not about winning an argument. And it is certainly not about a definitive determination of right and wrong. Okay? Even deeper, discernment is not about a concrete determination of truth and error. Discernment is much more fluid and uplifting than that. Discernment can be found on a much higher level of thinking than merely being right or wrong, black or white. If your goal in making decisions in life is to conform I read that all wrong. If your goal in making decisions in life is to confirm that you are right, you are definitely not discerning, okay? Child. You just want to be right. In fact, you do not completely understand what discernment is if all you want to be is right. The whole notion of engaging someone in making decisions in life just to prove that you are right is not only a low level of thinking, it is outright dangerous. Child, she said this is this is low level thinking, y'all. It's just low level thinking, okay? And it's outright dangerous. People who operate in that manner win battles, but always lose wars. That's because they refuse to grasp the broader concept of what it means to operate from a position of humility. My God. What that mean though? Okay. Humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. And what does this mean here? It's because we know that we are all flawed human beings. That even though I feel personally that I have a keen sense of discernment, it's not about me being right or trying to prove that you're wrong and I'm right and it's this way and it's that way and it's definitive and it's no. Because I'm not viewing myself as someone who is infallible, as someone who always gets it right, as someone who is beyond making a bad decision. I'm not setting myself up or positioning myself as someone who never allows emotion to dictate my decisions. And you shouldn't either. Instead, they are operating from a totally different angle filled with emotional markers. And if they are obsessed with being crowned right and someone else being dubbed wrong, they are a slave to pride. Pride is arguably the most destructive element that someone can lead with during their decision making. Pride and its qualities will be discussed in chapter 6. Oh, I can't wait to get there, child. Oh, I can't wait, okay? Because when we talk about pride, child, Ciao, ciao, ciao. Individuals who seek to always prove they are right are merely surviving in life. Living in survival mode presents a breeding ground for irrational and poor thinking. A breeding ground. Oh, child. You know what a breeding ground is? You know what a breeding ground is? Oh my gosh. There isn't even a definition for it. And, together like that. The mating and production of offspring by animals, that's breeding. Oh, so you are like producing, like you got a breeding ground, like a ground that's ripe for producing irrational and poor thinking. Oh gosh. Oh no, don't do that, y'all. If you are operating in survival mode, your ability to discern becomes overshadowed or muted by emotions, preconceived notions, prejudices, and selfish desires that will dictate a person's responses and reactions. Most of these bad habits and beliefs are learned behaviors. And we, as creatures of habit, refuse to let go of such destructive patterns and thought processes. This is like, y'all, it's going to be very harmful to your discernment process. If you are not willing, open to letting go of destructive patterns and thought processes in your life. By holding on to these shortcomings, one will never truly develop an ability to discern. Instead, such persons cling on to a mindset that is destructive. However, if you let go of these falsehoods, being able to discern now becomes a possibility, along with the opportunity to take control of your life by engaging in self-reflection and tapping into your God-given internal guidance and reasoning skills as various situations arise. It's good news. This is good news. That if you just be willing to let go of destructive patterns and thought processes, then you can take control of your life. And then you can tap into everything, right? Because what did we learn in the previous chapters? That at the bare minimum of discernment, you are full. There is no lose. This is a win-win situation for you. You cannot lose when you are discerning. And the good news is that when you learn how to discern in the small situations, you are also preparing yourself how to discern in larger, more intense situations where a lot more is at stake. We talked about this yesterday, right? In our last video about discernment, is that we are building a foundation here, right? Is that we are learning to discern on a very everyday, level, so that we can be able to make the best decisions in our lives when it's a bigger situation, when there's more at stake, when life, limb, and liberty are on the line. Okay? Which I would say is all the time, child. Okay? And last but certainly not least, discernment is not meant to be a quick fix or a temporary solution to a problem. Quite the opposite. Discernment takes into consideration the relevant factors to ensure that the choices you make will not cause you to backtrack, backpedal, or reverse course. More importantly, discernment is forward moving, forward looking, and forward thinking. Forward. Toward the front, in the direction that one is facing or traveling. Forward. You are moving in the direction that you are trying to go. You don't want to be trying to go in one direction, but your decisions are taking you in another direction, right? You don't want to be trying to move forward in your life, right? But your decisions are setting you back. Discernment is forward moving, forward looking, and forward thinking. I'm thinking, I'm moving, I'm looking, all in a direction that I'm going. I'm going forward, right? I'm moving in the direction of my purpose. I'm moving in the direction of my desires, my wishes, my goals, my aspirations. I'm moving in the direction of love and peace. I'm moving in a direction of prosperity. And guess what? My movements, the way I'm looking, the way I'm thinking is all going in the same direction, because discernment is my navigation system. Discernment is the GPS. And as long as discernment is what's guiding me, is my compass, then I am going in the right direction. In other words, discernment focuses on the bigger picture, which takes into account your future and not just what is happening today. Temporary self-gratification is not the end result of the discernment process. If discernment is involved in the course of action you choose or you chose, you will feel confident that the right decision was made right now and for the future. Start with the assessment questions provided in this chapter to help increase your understanding of discernment and to assist with the development of your ability to discern. What you will learn is that the more you discern, the better you will become at knowing what discernment is and what is not. Okay? You will work that muscle, honey. Work that muscle. Okay? So that is chapter 4. This is a great time to stop. I have a meeting at 8:30 this morning. It is 7:58 here in Alabama, Central Standard Time. And I feel so very blessed, you guys, okay? Like, let me just give you like a quick little testimony service. I got a testimony, okay? I feel extremely blessed to bring you all this discernment review, this book review, really, because even though I am reading, through the book, I am adding my own commentary here, right? I'm letting you all experience me, right? And really how I think and how I operate and how I interact with people that I am working with. Because as you are listening to me, then you are understanding my process in how I will guide you, right? And really walk alongside you on your journey to become a kingdom discerner, you know, because ultimately, I pray that that is your goal. I pray that you are invested, right, in really building this foundation of discernment, not only so that you can make the best decisions for your life in your everyday situations, in your everyday relationships, right? But I hope that, and I pray that you are really thinking about this even on a kingdom level. Even realizing that making discerning decisions in your everyday life is ultimately building the kingdom. One thing that I used to always I kind of like despise this about church and, just kind of like how it was done in the church that I grew up with, right? Grew up in my parents' church, is that um I was always kind of made to believe that everything is so much bigger than me. But it was almost like it was to my detriment, right? Because it it made me not see my own importance. The importance of my decisions, my choices, my actions, my behaviors, all of those things, because it was like you're not you're not you're not important. That instead it's upholding this thing, right? Whether it be the church, the organization, the family, it was always kind of like you're like, I'm not important because what's important is upholding some ideal. Do you see what I'm saying? But I think that we have taken so much humanity out of everything that people don't really see how their decisions and everything impact them. Like, you don't see how important you are. You don't see how important your purpose is and your existence here, right? And your calling on your life. And you don't see that because you're trying to uphold this ideal. That because everything is so much bigger than you, that you don't really realize that it's also about you. And I don't even know if I'm really saying that right? Because it's something that I just had in my mind, and I've always thought this way, but I don't think I've ever really articulated it, even to the point where I really know how to articulate it right now, right? Because I just never have. But even when I left the church and my father was trying to convince me to stay, he was saying that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me, right? But in my mind, I kept saying, no, it's not bigger than me. It's just my size. Because if the individual person doesn't matter, then what are we really building? We're building up ideals. We're building up structures. We are building idols. We are building things that don't matter. But we matter, right? We are the church. But we will neglect and negate and dismiss our own selves because the church, the structure, is what matters more than the church that exists within us. And so I guess my overall message here, right, in just sharing that bit, is that it's not bigger than you. is just your size. You matter. Your decisions matter. Your choices matter. Your purpose matters. Your life matters. Your salvation matters. Your spirit matters. Like, you matter. And we can't be so busy trying to uphold this structure, this ideal, this organization, that we don't even care about the people that make up the people. It's the people that matter. I am making some, really major decisions in my life right now. And I will be sharing those soon on my channel, of course. But this is, a part of my journey and a part of my story is, and a part of my mission is not only realizing my own importance, but helping people realize their importance. And when you know that you matter, like when you know that you have a purpose, then learning to discern is like you want to. Yes, I want to make the best decisions of my life. I want the best outcomes for me and the people that I love. And even if I decide to be a part of an organization or a church or whatever, I know that, like, it's not bigger than me. It is me. It's just my size. And I don't want to be aligned or a part of anything where that thing is more important than what upholds that thing, right? Is what keeps it going, is what makes it happen, what funds it, what keeps it moving, what keeps it flowing, which is the people. People matter. And they should be treated as such. So I love you guys. I don't even know if that made any sense, but I'm sure that as time progresses, that it will, right? That things will make more sense. Let me see. It is Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah. It's Tuesday, August the 29th, y'all. Let me know when you end up hearing this broadcast. And when you do, you know that this is timeless information, right? This is not a gossip channel, and once the story is no longer viral, then it's no longer relevant, right? This is about discernment. This is a timeless message that even if you are listening to this broadcast a year, 2 years, 10 years from now, it still applies. The principles still apply. Okay? So, whenever you are listening to this, please share. Please like the video. Because anybody, lottie-dottie, every doggone body needs to learn to discern. Okay? So I'm hoping you all have a wonderful and a blessed day. Okay? And remember, you are important to me. I need you to survive. I love you guys. Bye bye for now.